Remember C-3PO? You know, that kind of clunky metal guy trying to translate for Luke? Or the Terminator? All about that metal menace, right? Yeah, our idea of robots is often kind of stuck in science fiction. But get ready for a reality check, because today we're diving into the world of robots that are nothing, and I mean nothing, like their Hollywood counterparts.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty amazing how fast our understanding of robots is evolving. Like we're moving beyond those rigid metallic structures and into some really cool stuff. A realm of soft, flexible, and incredibly specialized machines.
And we've got some pretty fascinating video transcripts from Veritasium to help us unpack all of this. Dr. Elliot Hawks and his team are leading the way in this research, and trust me, what they're doing is seriously cool. Okay, so imagine this. A robot inspired by a vine, but this vine can grow hundreds of times its size. And get this, it can navigate really narrow spaces with total ease. Or, how about this? A robot that can jump, get this, over 100 feet straight up in the air. Talk about defying gravity, right?
Hey, these aren't just feats of engineering, just cool tricks. They actually represent a fundamental shift in how we think about what robots are and what they can do.
Okay, I am so ready for this. So first up, soft robotics. What's the advantage of, ditching the metal and going soft?
Well, metal's good, don't get me wrong, it's durable and all,
Hmm.
but it's got its limitations. It's heavy, can be unsafe in some situations, and it just doesn't really adapt well. But on the other hand, soft robotics, well, they offer some really unique advantages. For one, they're inherently safer to be around, to interact with. Plus, they can adapt to complex environments way better than metal, and their flexibility allows them to do stuff that traditional robots just can't.
Okay, so maybe less Terminator and more like Baymax from Big Hero 6. Is that what you're saying? I'm all for that. But speaking of soft and adaptable, let's talk about this Vine robot. It's amazing just how it snakes through tight spaces and grows around obstacles. It's like something straight out of a nature documentary.
Totally. It's like a perfect example of what we call bio-inspired design.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Hawks actually got the idea for the vine robot from watching a real vine reaching for sunlight. Can you believe it? It was just growing in his office.
It's crazy how nature just like offers these elegant solutions if we just stop to notice them? But let's get practical here for a second. I mean, what kind of real world situations could we use this technology in?
Oh man, the potential is huge. Imagine a collapsed building after an earthquake. We need to find survivors, and time is critical, right? So we could send in a low-cost, expendable robot that can weave its way through the rubble and equip it with a camera. Boom. Game changer for search and rescue.
That makes total sense. And because it's cheap to make, it's not a huge loss if something happens to it in a dangerous situation, right? Okay, so what about other applications?
Well, archaeological exploration is another great example. Actually, the videos mention how they use the Vine robot to explore these super narrow passages in, get this, ancient Peruvian temples, like uncovering artifacts and secrets that have been hidden for centuries.
Oh, that's what I call a deep dive. Literally. But hold on, hold on. The medical applications of this thing sound like something straight out of a futuristic medical drama.
Oh, for sure. The potential in medicine is really exciting. Like, imagine a super tiny version of the Vine robot being used for intubation, assisting with breathing tubes in medical procedures or even in emergencies.
Whoa, this seems like a delicate procedure to trust to a robot, don't you think?
I know, right? But think about it right now. It requires a super skilled medical professional. And even then, it can be tricky. This tech could make it faster, safer, and way more accessible, especially in remote areas or in emergencies, where you might not have a specialist nearby.
So we're talking about something that could potentially save lives in more ways than one. This is incredible. Okay, moving on to this jumping robot. This thing is absolutely bonkers. I mean, just seeing footage of this robot in action is mind-boggling. It leaps over obstacles so fast it's almost impossible to capture on film. And you mentioned earlier that this jumping ability would be super useful for like exploration, especially in places like the moon or Mars. So can you explain why that is?
Yeah, for sure. So in low gravity, jumping becomes a really efficient way to get around. Think about it. Instead of rolling over all that uneven terrain or getting stuck in craters,
Yeah.
a robot could just leap right over them.
It's like taking a shortcut through the galaxy. Okay, but how does it even work? This tiny robot making these huge leaps, it seems to defy physics.
Well, it's all about some pretty clever engineering and, taking inspiration from nature. This robot uses a system of latex rubber bands and carbon fiber, materials that are known for their exceptional energy storage capacity.
So it's like what? A super-powered rubber band.
Exactly. It's a brilliant concept called work multiplication.
Hmm.
Basically, the robot uses a small motor to slowly store energy in the rubber bands and then, bam, releases it all at once, launching itself into the air.
That's incredible. So, like, if we used this concept on a larger scale, could we design robots capable of even greater feats of strength and agility?
Absolutely. This principle of work multiplication has some really far-reaching implications. Imagine tiny robots that can lift crazy heavy objects, like in construction or manufacturing, or even performing delicate surgeries with incredible precision, all thanks to this efficient way of storing and releasing energy.
That opens up a world of possibilities. You also mentioned this mechanism is similar to how some animals jump, right?
That's so.
Oh,
It's wild. Think about animals like the bush baby or even fleas. They've developed these really specialized mechanisms to store and release energy super quickly for those crazy powerful leaps. It makes you wonder what other ingenious solutions nature has up its sleeve that we could use in robotics, right? Maybe we'll be seeing robots inspired by grasshoppers or kangaroos in the future.
that's an amazing thought.
Yeah.
Speaking of pushing the boundaries of robot design, let's talk about Micromouse. So it's a competition where tiny robots race to solve a maze. Is that right? It sounds, I don't know, deceptively simple.
Yeah, Micromouse is a great example of how even a seemingly simple challenge can drive some serious innovation. It's been around for almost 50 years. And in that time, we've seen incredible advancements in robot design and strategy.
And I bet there have been some like game-changing moments in Micromouse history, right? Like, those big innovations that completely changed how the robots competed.
Oh, absolutely. One major innovation was, and it seems obvious now, but it was huge at the time, the introduction of diagonal movement. So instead of being limited to moving along the grid, robots could suddenly take shortcuts. This cut down their times drastically.
I can imagine the excitement, like watching the robotic equivalent of the 4-minute mile being broken. What other innovations really changed the game?
Another huge breakthrough was adding vacuum fans to the robot's designs. These fans create what's called downforce, which basically pushes the robot onto the surface. And this lets them make much tighter turns at higher speeds without spinning out. It's like watching a Formula One race car on a miniature track.
Wow. It's amazing how such a small detail can have such a huge impact on performance. But what does this competition, this constant drive for innovation, what does it tell us about the future of robotics as a whole?
Well, I think it really highlights a crucial shift in how we think about robot design these days. We're getting away from trying to copy human form and function, and we're embracing specialized robots that
Yeah.
are amazing at very specific tasks.
So instead of the Jetsons' Rosie who could do it all, we might have a whole team of specialized robots tackling different jobs around the house or workplace.
Yeah, it's like instead of a regular toolbox, we're building one filled with robots, right? And each one is like a specialist in its own right. I
Yeah.
can definitely see the logic there. Exactly. It's about using the strengths of each robot, their unique abilities, to build a more efficient and adaptable system. And we're already seeing this everywhere, even in our everyday lives.
You're right. Just the other day, I was at the grocery store and I saw this little robot. It was zipping around, cleaning up a spill, and it didn't even cause a scene or anything. Like, nobody even looked twice. It just made me realize how quickly we've gotten used to having these specialized machines around us integrated into our world.
And it's only going to get more integrated as we move toward even more specialized robots, especially ones designed for those, like super delicate or critical tasks. And that comes with its own unique set of design challenges.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've talked about robots for search and rescue, exploration, even medicine, all high-stakes stuff. So what are some of the key things researchers are focusing on as they develop these robots?
Well, one of the biggest things is making sure they can work reliably in situations that are, well, unpredictable. Take a search and rescue robot, for example. It might have to navigate a collapsed building.
Hmm.
So it needs to be adaptable. It needs to make decisions on the fly as conditions change around it.
So they need a certain level of like artificial intelligence, right? They can't
Yeah.
be totally pre-programmed for every scenario.
Exactly. It's about finding a good balance between pre-programmed knowledge and the ability to learn and adapt as they go. These robots have to process information from their surroundings, make decisions based on that information, and maybe even learn from their experiences to improve over time.
That's pretty incredible when you think about it. It's
Right.
almost as if these machines are developing like a sense of their own, a way of interacting with the world that's more than just following instructions.
Yeah, it's true. And it's a field that's changing so fast. And even though we're making incredible progress, we're still learning so much about AI and what it can really do in robotics.
It's exciting, but it's also kind of humbling, isn't it? This idea that we're creating machines that can, in a sense, think for themselves. It makes you really appreciate just how complex the human brain is and how hard it would be to copy even a small part of what it can do.
Absolutely. And it really speaks to how important it is for different fields to work together, to push those boundaries of what's possible. I mean, they're robots we've talked about today. They wouldn't exist without engineers, biologists, computer scientists, and countless others all working together to solve these complex problems.
Well said. This deep dive has been a wild ride through this incredible world of unconventional robots. I've learned so much about the creativity behind these machines, all the different ways they can be used, and how exciting the possibilities are for the future.
It's been a pleasure sharing all this with you. I always love talking about this stuff. And to see it spark some curiosity and imagination.
And to all of you listening, we want to hear from you. What surprised you the most today? Have you had any interesting encounters with robots in your own lives? Share your thoughts with us on social media. And hey, maybe your ideas will inspire the next generation of robotic innovation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.